about the tragedy that we've been working on and working through here, with our investigations team and with the family to try to figure out exactly what happened. And so, because there's so much information I want to share with you, normally I don't like to read to you, but I'm going to read all of this because we want to give you a lot of information that's detailed. So the Huntsville Police Department has worked with the family throughout our investigation, and this morning showed them the security video of the events leading up to the discovery of Miss Nance. The Huntsville Police Department's thoughts are with the family during this tragedy. Investigators met with the family Friday morning and showed them the security video of the events leading up to this. The Huntsville Police Department announced Friday, October 15th, information about how Christina Nance entered a parked, unoccupied police van in the rear corner of the parking lot at the Public Safety Complex here at 815 Wheeler Avenue. Miss Nance's body was discovered by an officer who was walking through the parking lot on October 7th. The officer noticed shoes next to the van and approached, discovering Miss Nance's body inside. Windows on the van were observed to be opened, and on this type of van, they popped outward. It wasn't that they were rolled down, they popped out. HPD has spent countless hours reviewing security video to determine the events leading up to Miss Nance being in the parking lot and in that van. Security video from the City of Huntsville cameras attached to the public safety building were the ones that were reviewed the most, the ones that showed where the van was in the parking lot. Miss Nance is observed in the video walking around the parking lot. She lays down in the bushes at some point, and again, we're going to show you the video here in a few minutes, and you'll see the things that I'm describing to you. She sits on the hood of a police car for some time. She approaches other cars in the parking lot, you'll see, and this all happens for about 10 minutes before she enters the van. This all occurs on September 25th at around 12:30 p.m.
You said p.m.?
Correct. In the middle of the day, around lunchtime. Miss Nance was originally reported missing on October 2nd to us, and at the time she was believed to have been seen last on September 27th. Right? After security video showed movement in the van earlier on that same date, it was determined that that timeline was incorrect. So that is part of the problem with why this took so long. So we originally were looking through surveillance video that really we had to look at minute for minute to watch to see somebody enter the parking lot and get into that van. So we literally had to watch 2 weeks of surveillance. We worked our way back to the 27th, and then as we reviewed the video at that point, we saw that there was movement in the van. So we realized she was already there, so we had to then start working backward again. All right, so as you can imagine, this, watching video minute for minute, now we're spending a lot of time trying to find what was going on. Switch here. So, after security video showed that movement again, as I said before, we were able to determine that she did enter the van at that point. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and show you the surveillance video. We'll take a look at it, and I'm going to I may walk away to kind of point out some things, and I'll try to get back to the camera or to the microphone to discuss different parts of it. So this is the video. Let's make sure that you understand. So this is the video as it looks to us as we review the video. Let me point out real quick. I'm going to point out real quick where the van is. That is the van that we'll be looking at. And so, as you can see right now, we already pushed play. We're already rolling on the video. And I want to hit stop real quick on this. I want to point out something we want to make sure that everybody knows is that the time stamp on this is exactly 12 hours off. So as you can see, it looks like it says AM. This is actually in the middle of the day. It's PM. So it's the timestamp is off by 12 hours. So this is just after lunch on Saturday, the 25th. All right, so we'll roll it again. And I want you to pay close attention to just how difficult it is to see anything in these videos. We'll show you in a few minutes how we can zoom in to some degree, but as you zoom in, you lose, it becomes more pixelated and more difficult to see. But If you will watch here in just a few minutes, you'll start to see her come into view as she's walking toward us in the distance on Wheeler Avenue. And I'm going to walk over and point out where you will see her first come up on the video. We want this to play for just a minute so that you can understand, and the public can understand. You can see her there walking, the figure walking along the street. Again, investigators had to sit and watch this video minute for minute for hours to finally find this.
Just for clarity, can you go ahead and point her out one more time?
Sure. She's actually gone behind a car. So what I'll do, so we wanted to show you this raw version of the video. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and stop it here, and we're going to show you an where we zoom in, right? Okay, so we'll switch now. And again, watch from the same area. You'll see her walk toward the camera. There we go. She actually, it appears that she sits behind that patrol car for some time. She, as you can see, she went behind the patrol car and is not reemerged. And again, make sure you note that October 7th is the day that we found her. And so we had to work back all the way from October 7th to now we're on September 25th to be able to find this bit of video that shows her in the parking lot and get into the van.
And is this an HDD surveillance camera?
It's on our building. It's maintained and serviced by the City of Huntsville General Services. So we obviously have access, but
So
those...
it's a city camera?
It is a city camera, correct.
Okay.
This camera is actually a somewhat recent addition within the last couple of years. This camera has been put on the building just to add more video footage for better security. And you can see her out again now, walking.
Chief, is this camera fed anywhere? Does anybody have a monitor where they can look at this?
No, I don't believe we have any kind of, we have so many cameras that we monitor. No one's sitting and watching this specific camera that I'm aware of, no. These are just so that if you have an event and you need to go back and look, you have the ability to do that. You can see she just leaned against the patrol car. We will be providing you with a copy of this. As you can see there, how difficult she is to see at that point.
Is this lot, anything in particular, is it designated in any particular way? Is it a public lot? Is this one your lot? What is this?
So this portion is not a public lot. This side is only HPD vehicles. There's actually a gate arm that you have to have a key card to enter this part of the parking lot. However, as you can see, you can walk into it. And here's where she goes along beside the van. You'll see her go to the rear of the van, and then she doesn't reemerge, and that's where she enters the van. So from this point forward, there are numerous times throughout the next few days where you see movement inside the van. We actually see those windows. I'll point to the windows I'm going to refer to. Those windows actually pop out and open, then they close, they pop open again. So there were several times, primarily those windows opening, I believe were the 28th, when those windows opened that were very prominent, and then they stay open. They ended up open all the way until the time that the officer found her. So, you know, I think what really distresses us and pains us is that we know that there are, you know, you guys will have some of this video, but cars go by, people walk nearby the van. You know, we just wish that she would have hollered out to someone or something, you know, because there were plenty of, unfortunately, there was what we see as potential opportunities for this to not be a tragedy. And unfortunately, you know, no one was able to realize she was in that van, and that was the outcome. So, a couple of things I want to talk about now, just sort of as a follow-up. So, you know, when the officer found her, of course, we worked this as any other crime scene, potential crime. You know, the body was sent for a preliminary autopsy. We are waiting for the full results, which would include the toxicology. But we did get, as you know, the preliminary, which showed obviously no trauma to the body, no signs of any foul play. And just something about the van, just so you know, the van was purchased in 1995. So we've had this van for a long time. When we originally purchased this van, it was when the city of Huntsville and the Huntsville Police Department maintained a jail. And so we used that van to transport prisoners or jail inmates. In the early 2000s, when we switched over and the Madison County Sheriff's Department took over the operations of the jail, that vehicle was repurposed. We didn't need it for that anymore. So we primarily used it for two different things. One was in the event that an arrestee out in the field couldn't get into a patrol car, whether it was you know, something to do with their physical attributes or whether it was a handicap situation, we would send that vehicle out so that we could transport them, you know, humanely, I guess you would say. So that's one of the uses that vehicle is used for, which that was very rare. Which it was used more often to take evidence that had been cleared by the courts, evidence that was no longer needed. That evidence is to be taken to be destroyed. And so that van was used by the evidence technicians to do that. That van had last been used in March of this year for that purpose. It had been sitting there unused since March.
Unused and unlocked?
Well, we don't know just exactly. You know, apparently it was unlocked when we got there. When we got to the van and you know, found Miss Nance in it, those back doors were unlocked. So,
Were you able to open the doors from the inside?
no, you're not, because of its original design. You know, it does not have handles on the inside because it was made for transporting prisoners or inmates. So you cannot exit Once you get into the van, you cannot exit from the interior of the van.
Unless you're like up front or even up front.
You know, there's a divider, you know, so that if you were if there were an inmate or something behind you, you wouldn't want that inmate to be able to get to you if you're driving the van. So there's a divider.
If it was a transport van, you couldn't open it from the inside. You mentioned the windows. Could a person climb through that window, or are they too narrow?
You couldn't climb through it, but it wouldn't take much to knock that window out because the way those windows punch outward, that would not take a whole lot of force to open or punch completely open. However, it was open plenty to hear outside the van or to yell to outside of the van. Certainly, there was access to the outside world through those windows. But again, you know, she would open and close them, and we simply have no idea of knowing what her state of mind was, you know, what was going on there. Again, we just, you know, it's just a tragedy. We wish it come out different.
So she got in because the doors were unlocked and then she was trapped essentially?
Well, essentially, yeah, you can't, you know, once you're in that van, you can't get out of that van. Somebody has to let you out of the van.
There was some reference last night to prior contact, apart from arrests between your department, you know, folks that would help people in mental distress. Can you talk a little bit about that background?
I can, you know, and I want to be really careful with this question. You know, the last thing we want to do is, you know, have anything negative toward a victim of something like this. But, you know, our department has worked with her. Our CIT officers know her pretty well. They have worked with her in the past to provide resources and different things. And so, you know, we are familiar with her, very familiar with her.
Can you be more specific about how they work, what types of resources they offered her?
Well, you know, our CIT unit works with those who struggle with any type of, you know, see, I want to really, the last thing we want to do, right, is turn her into any kind of, she's the victim here, right? And so we don't know what her state of mind was at this time. We don't know any of that. But what I do want to tell you is that we do know her. We have worked with her with our CIT unit, and we have worked to get her different resources. I really don't want to go any further than that.
What is the CIT unit stand for?
Well, it's an intervention team that works with those. They usually respond to calls of things like mental altered states and things like that.
Okay, and how, has it been about a year? Do you know how long?
Since the last contact, I don't have that exact time that the last officer had that type of contact.
Can you go over the timeline again of when the family says they last saw her, when they reported her missing, when she actually entered the van?
Yeah, so the timeline is that we have her entering the van. So she goes into the van, and this is now, I'm giving you the timeline based on what we now know. She entered the van on September 25th at around 12:30, right, just around noon. Right, so the family reported her missing on October 2nd. What we were told is the last time they saw her was September 27th. Right? So, and then we found her on October 7th.
Is there any way that, I guess, a policy change, or since the van was unlocked, how are you guys addressing that moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it is the policy to keep vans locked. To keep all city vehicles should remain locked anytime they're not in use or occupied. So, you know, that is just something that we have to look at as an accountability issue on our part. We have to address that and make sure that we don't accidentally leave any vehicle unlocked at any point. So, you know, sometimes you just have to say that was something that shouldn't have happened. It did. Our policies are such that that should not have happened, and now we have to look at that, and we have to make sure that we have things in place so that that does not happen again.
And going further than that, so do you not have people monitoring the lot just for any vehicle, just to make sure that everything is going well in the lot specifically?
No, you know, that lot is for police personnel. There are police officers in and out of that lot 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, you know, you can see, we see officers in and out of this parking lot all day on these surveillance videos. We watch people moving through the parking lot continuously, day in and day out, throughout these, you know, from the 25th until the 7th as we watch video. So, you know, there's really not a big need for specific security because we kind of provide that security in our constant movement in and out of that parking lot.
So you said that the officer who discovered the body noticed some shoes next to the van.
That's correct.
Do you believe those were her shoes, and where were they located in proximity to the van?
Yeah, so we do believe that they were her shoes, and they were literally straight under that window that I told you popped out. They were right on the ground, right beside the van.
So was it the shoes or a smell that caught his attention?
It was the shoes. He saw the shoes. He thought that was odd to see shoes laying there. You know, a lot of times, so this entrance here, there's an entrance in that other video. You could see that there's an entrance just below where that camera sits. That doorway is the doorway into this building that you enter a lot of times over here on the side or sometimes exit when you come into this room. This hallway is used for a lot of officers who go to our internal city gym and to the records division, right? So we have officers who come in and out of this area just constantly. And so a lot of officers, they're familiar with what cars tend to be in the parking lot, what, you know, the way that things are tend to be situated, right? And so to see shoes sitting there, that officer saw it and being very observant realized that he had never seen that before and that was out of the norm. And so he went over to look and investigate what was going on and discovered her body in the van.
Is there any point on the video when you see the shoes either drop out of the window or appear, or do you know when the shoes were left there?
Yeah, we could not. And so something about this is you can see this video that we've just shown you now. You can tell it is more pixelated than the video we showed you earlier that was really backed away, right? And so the problem is that the closer you get, the more pixelated it becomes, and the more small things you can't pick them out. And so, you know, we believe that just you can't see it when the video is back enough, and as you get too close to it, it pixelates out such small movement, and so you can't see it. But you can see when those windows open that it changes the angle, really, and that reflection on that window during the daylight. You can see that it's something small like shoes. We just weren't able to pick that out.
Can you speak about how this morning went with the family when you showed them the video?
Yeah, well, you know, anything like this, anytime you deal with the tragedy and the loss of a loved one, it's tough. And so, you know, I'll say that this has been a difficult time for them. It's been a difficult time for our investigators, and so, you know, it was a tough morning.
What would your message be to the family?
Well, certainly that we're here for them. We want to work through this with them. It's a tragedy, and you know, as the police department, our goal, our job is to do everything we can to serve them, to serve all of our public, and we're here to work through this with them, and it's just a terribly unfortunate situation.
Just a couple other quick
Thank
things.
you, guys. I think we're going to conclude right there. Thank you.
I got one more question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The police car that's in the corner by the van,
Mhm.
is that out of service? What do you know about that vehicle?
That vehicle, I hate to tell you the wrong answer, but that vehicle usually sits there. I believe it is an out-of-service vehicle.
Just I'm wondering about how, watching all that video, and just wondering, you know, hoping the
Yeah.
outcome would change.
Yeah.
If you saw how proximate anybody got to that van in that span of time, near misses, that kind of thing, within the parking lot itself.
There were near misses, for sure. There were absolute, and that's the struggle that we have, right? We don't know her mental state, right? But there were clearly opportunities for this to have ended differently.
Thank you, guys.